Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norum.
And I'm Bill Littauer. On this edition of LMC News, the bell took its toll at the Methodist Church in Mamaroneck, crashing through the ceiling, causing some injuries. We'll have an interview.
Mamaroneck's Harbor Island baseball lights are still not up and costing more. The mayor will still tell us more. A catering company owner skips town, dishing out disappointment and leaving a lot of bills.
A Post Road office building goes on the selling block at less than cost, while another condo project gets closer to completion.
Wingfoot wants expansion, and the town looking at a possible 4-year term for Clerk.
Finally, the Emelin Street Fair is just days away. In fact, mark Sunday on your calendar.
Those stories and more on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
First, 2 people were slightly injured when a half-ton church bell broke loose and plunged 180 feet down the bell tower of the Mamaroneck United Methodist Church Sunday the 2nd. The cast-iron bell had been held solidly in place on a crossbeam for 130 years, but a broken bolt apparently allowed the bell to cut loose. Bessie and Jim Cummings were slightly injured in the accident. They were standing in the vestibule greeting churchgoers when the bell came crashing down, showering them with plaster and splinters. LMC Community News reporter Rita Blockton talked to Pastor Bill Shillady.
Sunday, September 2nd was quite an exciting day at church, I take it.
It was a very exciting day as our bell fell 120 feet through 4 floors into the vestibule of the church. 1 minute before the church service was to start.
So you had 2 or 3 people standing there, right?
Well, we had 2 people in the vestibule, and I had just sent 1 person up to investigate why the bell wasn't ringing. And I thought I'd send him to his death, but luckily we had 3 minor injuries, and it was a real miracle in Mamaroneck that nobody was killed.
That is unbelievable. Did you carry on? What happened?
Yes. After the police and the fire and all the rescue people arrived and the building inspector, I told everybody in the congregation to get out for safety's sake, but we moved to a different building, to an auditorium, and went ahead with worship, starting about 20 minutes late. And we sang Amazing Grace, which is a good hymn about God's grace with renewed vigor. Yeah.
Wingfoot Golf Club wants permission to extend its driving range. 50 trees would have to be cut down on the Sheldrake River floodplain, and that's a sensitive environmental issue. The town of Mamaroneck would have to grant a waiver of its 1-year development moratorium on golf club land. The club will have until October 3rd to prove why it would suffer a hardship if the waiver is not granted. For more on Town of Mamaroneck news items, we spoke with Council Member Elaine Price. What's the chances Wingfoot will get that waiver?
Well, the burden is on the applicant, and the burden is a legal one. And it's financial hardship. He has to come with dollars and cents proof that they will be compromised financially to a degree severe enough for us to grant the variance. And that degree will have to override some strong environmental considerations.
Now, what exactly is the environmental consideration besides lopping off 50 trees?
The environmental consideration is that there is drainage involved. It's 15 acres of a project, and it's taxpayers' dollars. We have commissioned a very intensive and sophisticated hydrological study of the area, and that tells us what the volumes and rates of water, what is occurring at the golf club.
The impact is what then? Flooding?
The impact is always flooding. How we control the rates and the volumes, and that's significant. So in terms of what they're doing, it may impact on this hydrological study, and since we have commissioned it, the taxpayers are paying for it, we don't want to okay a variance for 15 acres unless we can be assured that that won't have some significant impact on the study that we're about to do.
For a couple area school news items, now that school has been open a few days, here's LMC News School News reporter Monique Citron.
School bells are ringing, backpacks are packed, the seasons are turning. It's time to start providing a quiet place and time for homework again. And if you still feel badly that you haven't had time to clean off the grill from those Labor Day barbecues, well, work on the Mamaroneck School District's $7.3 million capital improvement plan is running over budget and slightly behind schedule too. Bathroom work alone, initially approved at $621,000, is now estimated at $800,000. Sarah Tate, the Assistant Superintendent for Business, told the Board of Education, once they opened the walls, they found broken pipes and they just couldn't close them up again. Also, state requirements for handicapped access added to the original costs. Bids have gone out for the Phase 2 of the plan. Phase 3, which involves interior renovations at Mamaroneck High and Mamaroneck Avenue Elementary School, is awaiting State Education Department approval. In another delay, the search for a new principal for Mamaroneck High School continues. Until a suitable candidate is chosen, Assistant Principal Ron Benizio is acting principal. Students at Rhinebeck Middle School were greeted by 20 shiny new computers upon their return. $15,000 were contributed by the PTA, an equal amount by the Board of Education. The goal is to make everyone, staff and students alike, computer literate. At Superintendent's Conference Day last week in Mamaroneck, Sheila Filipowski, head of the Teachers Institute, an educational organization for staff enrichment, pointed out that district staff had more than 5,000 years experience all told. That's older than the pyramids. Have a good year.
The sagging real estate market has claimed another victim. More than a year after completion, the Larchmont Professional Center on the Boston Post Road in Mamaroneck remains vacant. It was supposed to be a 16-suite office condominium. Now the owner hopes to sell the $2.8 million building to a single buyer for $200,000 less than it cost to build it. Larry Fraioli hopes his 27-unit apartment condo project in Mamaroneck will sell despite the market. 2 years in construction after the village stopped work for several months on a design irregularity, Fraioli plans to sell the first 10 units at cost. He hopes the location on Mount Pleasant Avenue, a half block from the train station, will prove an attraction, enough of one to overcome the stagnant real estate market.
Those controversial Harbor Island baseball lights are still not shining. And for the latest on the lights and other Village of Mamaroneck items, LMC News spoke with Mayor Paul Noto.
We are now at a position to make a final decision. Our engineering department and working with the engineers in Iowa that are structurally designing the project have been able to redesign 2 foundations that are going to be a little wider, and there is an additional cost associated with the new foundations. And what we've done is determine that it'll cost approximately $20,000 more to install the lights. And we are waiting now to see if on Monday night, the next board meeting, if the board will appropriate the money or if the money can be raised privately through the softball league or merchants or whatever. And I think that by Monday night we'll be in a position to make a final decision, and all the controversy seems to have died down, and we'll be ready to go.
Is there a chance that the lights indeed will go up yet this year? Or?
Yeah, well, it takes approximately 4 weeks to install. So if the board gave the green light Monday night, presumably they would be up by early October. That doesn't leave much time to complete the season, but you could technically play softball probably through the end of October.
All right, next subject. Mamaroneck Village is still looking for a manager.
Well, actually, the manager search committee has been soliciting resumes all summer long. We've advertised in professional journals, newspapers. We've received over 140 resumes and applications for the position. The search committee will be in a position to screen the resumes, conduct preliminary interviews, and I hope by Thanksgiving or December they'll be able to recommend a handful of top candidates to the village board, who then would interview and make the final decision.
State Senator Susie Oppenheimer is looking for college interns to work on her staff this fall. They could work in either New Rochelle or Albany. They'll do legislative research and clerical work. The senator, meanwhile, is recovering from open heart surgery. A benign growth was removed from her heart. The rare ailment produced no symptoms and was discovered only because she has an annual checkup. The Washingtonville Housing Alliance is opening its latest venture on Library Lane in the village of Mamaroneck. The project of nearly $600,000 will provide 7 apartment units at moderate prices for local residents. The Alliance hopes to break ground for a 75-unit senior citizens housing complex this fall. A much smaller project was completed over the Labor Day weekend. The Rockland Avenue Bridge was repaired to remove that annoying bump on the southbound approach. The bridge is owned by Metro North.
An Eagle Scout does a very good deed for the handicapped. LMC News reporter Joyce Sutherland has the story.
Good evening. We have with us Kevin Stefani, who is an Eagle Scout of Troop 2 Mamaroneck, who is responsible for the publication of this access guide for the handicapped. Good evening, Kevin.
Good evening,
Can you
Joyce.
tell us a little about this book?
Yes, in the fall of '88, I suffered a football injury which kept me on crutches for about 6 weeks. And I first began to notice how hard it was for disabled people to get around. And in keeping with the spirit of scouting, I thought it would be a great idea if I could put together some sort of access guide for public buildings and local merchants. So I set out on a project of trying to get this done in conjunction with my Eagle Award.
And you got help from the troop and from some financial aid?
Yes,
from different organizations.
There were 3 main stages of the project. First, I had to go out and survey all local merchants and all public buildings in the village of Mamaroneck. That I asked the troop to help me out with. Then I had to compile and sort through the information myself, which was the second stage. The third stage was subsidizing, printing, and distributing the guide. The subsidizing is what you mentioned, the financial help, which would have been impossible except for organizations like the Kiwanis Club, which gave a rather substantial donation paying for most of the guide. Then other clubs, the Benevolent Protective Order of the Elk, the Lions Club of Mamaroneck, Barclays Bank, and an anonymous sponsor also put in money to help pay for the guide.
All right, Kevin, where is this free booklet available?
All right, you can get free copies of the guide at the Mamaroneck Free Library. You can get them at Village Hall, both at the Police Department Information Desk and in the Human Resources Office. The Chamber of Commerce also has extra copies, as well as the Senior Center located in the Town Center on the Post Road.
Next to the Firemen's Carnival in the summer, the biggest event many look forward to when school begins is the Mamaroneck Village Emelin Street Fair. It's this Sunday, and to find out more about the fair, LMC spoke with the Emelin Theater manager, Norman Klein.
Sunday, September 16th. It's from 11:30 to 5. We expect 70 exhibitors from all over the East. We will have food for sale. We'll have free children's events in the theater, free puppet show. The Mamaroneck Community Band will play in the afternoon.
What time is the puppet show?
The puppet shows, I have to look at the paper, are at 1, 2:15, and 3:30, and they're free.
Okay.
It's a free admission to the fair. We would like, we do ask for a donation, but it's not necessary.
Is there anything new and different this particular fair?
Yes, there's a Creative Kids Corner this season that the Children's Department at the Mamaroneck Free Library and the Rye Arts Center are offering kids an opportunity to make crafts and the storytelling, and they can paint and do collages and so forth and so on.
Oh, and I understand there is a rain date.
There's a rain date. It's Sunday the 23rd, but we don't like to think about it. But yes, we'll postpone everything for a week if necessary.
Okay. It's fun for the whole family, the Emelin Street Fair, this Sunday on Mamaroneck's Library Lane.
The town of Mamaroneck Fire Department wants the town to impose fire lanes and require sprinklers in many public buildings. Sprinkler laws have been rejected by the state in 3 Westchester communities, however, and Mamaroneck officials say they should draft their law carefully so it survives any challenges. And the town of Mamaroneck is looking for about 20 election inspectors to work the polls on primary day and for the November 6th general election. Like the trumpet blast that shattered the fabled walls of Jericho, parishioners of the Straight Gate Church in Mamaroneck raised their voices in song to break the drug trade. Some 200 parishioners stood in the middle of Old White Plains Road, held hands, and held a single note for 30 seconds. Pastor Wayne Powell said they wanted to show those who would sell drugs to their children and destroy their community that they were going to take back their streets.
And that's it for another edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. This was our first program to lead us into the fall season, and we hope you had a great summer. And if you're looking for a great community activity to get involved in, you might check us out on a Thursday night. That's when we record this news program in the Palmer Avenue unit of the high school across from Walter's Hot Dogs. We'd love to see you. Thanks for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norum.
And I'm Bill Littauer. Remember, you can watch our LMC-TV Community News program every weekday night at 5 and 10 p.m.